see the record button. I edit this part out usually,
Okay.
so it's fine.
While I drink my
Yeah.
small batch Irish red ale from Moosehead.
And I drink my Ruby's Arms Stout from Town Brewery. Local brew right here in Whippy, Ontario, Canada.
Should see if we can get some Town Brewery shirts and have them sponsor us.
I will drink their beer more often. This is actually delicious. I
have
do
good
recommend if you can go pick up a Ruby's Arms Stout from Town Brewery. Not even a sponsorship. It's just pretty damn good.
If you're a sour fan, get the pajama pants.
Pajama pants.
Or Cosmic Love.
Is that where you bang an alien?
Yes. It's actually what comes out.
Fuck. Jesus Christ, I was drinking when he said that. I'm going to spit beer all over your floor. That would have been your fault.
It's like Slurm.
Oh, gross. It just sounds gross. Slurm.
You know Slurm.
Oh.
Futurama?
Slurm? I know. It just sounds so gross, though. Like, oh.
Good.
He got
times.
slurm on my face.
Slurping some Slurm?
Oh, it's so bad.
Okay, so...
slurm or do you swallow?
Okay, Mount Rushmore of Slurms.
All right, so we're talking
Rushmore.
Mount Rushmores in this episode.
Dallas Cowboys, why don't you rush more? Okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Are we going to try to get punny on this one?
We were. That one's for free. Everything else costs.
It.
Okay. So we decided to kick off with Super Bowl MVPs. So this is the Mount Rushmore of Super Bowl MVPs.
Okay.
So in order to qualify for this list, you have to win MVP in the Super Bowl.
Fact. Now let's just define Mount Rushmore really quick. So I don't know if we're gonna have the same opinion or different opinions on what a Mount Rushmore would consist of.
Okay, you go.
So my opinion on Mount Rushmore is not necessarily the greatest, but the most influential or game changer, or the ones that really set a standard. When you look at Mount Rushmore, and you think about the presidents that are up there, it's ones that had a great impact on the country as a whole. Not necessarily be considered the greatest, given that there have been so many generations of presidents now.
Yeah.
So I think that for me,
Difficult
Mount Rushmore for me is going to be, a combination of the greatest mixed with the most influential at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we on the same page, actually?
I think we're damn close.
Okay, cool.
If I was to define Mount Rushmore, I would say iconic, influential, and impactful.
Yeah.
I need these things. I need someone who has, like, if I'm talking strictly sports, like in general, and I'm to give a Mount Rushmore for a particular sport, I would weigh in what they did in their career, what they did in the postseason, because most sports have playoffs, what their legacy is afterwards, and how they changed the game.
Okay, but we remember, like, we're talking, like, when we talk about like Super Bowl MVPs, you gotta look at like just the Super Bowl.
Right. I'm talking about just sports, just so you have a better understanding of where my head's at when it comes to
I got you.
the term Mount Rushmore as it relates to sports.
Yeah.
Right. We gave an example. Guys, like, if you were to do, this isn't one of our Mount Rushmores, so I'll just bang it out quick. If we were to do Mount Rushmores for the NBA, people like MJ, LeBron, Magic, Kobe, Russell, Kareem, Bird, guys who changed the game, iconic. You can't debate whether or not they're one of the greatest of all time. You just know they are. Yeah. Right?
But then you got to pinpoint it down to, okay, what are the four?
Yeah. And that's what's fun about Mount Rushmore. I also, when you first brought it up, I told you I was a list guy and how I like top fives more than Mount Rushmore. Now that I've done the Mount Rushmore, I like that I don't need to give you a 1 through 4.
Yeah.
I'm not saying 1 is better than 4. I'm not saying 4 is better than 1. They're all the Mount Rushmore. Yeah. Right? So that's pretty cool. That means I'm judging them all on the same standard, which is cool. Okay. So, Super Bowl MVPs.
All right.
Want me to go first?
I'll let you go first with this one. You can start this one out.
Okay. So, let's start off with, I think, the easiest one for me to bring up. And that's Tom Brady. He's won the most. He's been to the most.
He has.
Fun fact, he's also lost the most. That's because he's been there so much. Right? He's lost the most Super Bowls. He's also won the most
As
Super
a quarterback or as a player?
As a player. He's been in the Super Bowl more than anybody else.
He's lost
the most Super Bowls.
2. He's lost 2.
3. He lost to the Eagles and the Giants.
Shit,
twice.
I forgot about the Eagles.
I was like,
that's how much I hate the fact that the Eagles have won a Super Bowl. Is I completely erase it from my mind.
Yeah. So he's lost 3 Super Bowls.
Okay.
As a starting quarterback, he's lost 3 Super Bowls, but it's negated by the fact that he's also won
4. Well, he's won 4 MVPs.
Yeah, he's won 6 Super Bowls.
6 Super Bowls. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's.
I was focusing on the MVPs.
Yeah, because he tied MJ, right? 6 Super Bowls. So I think that's the easiest one for me to start off with. He has to be on your Super Bowl MVP Mount Rushmore just because he won it the most, right? And he's also been like you just said, of those 6 Super Bowls, he's won 4 Super Bowl MVPs. So he was considered the most valuable player in that game. So that's my easy one. My number 2 is also pretty easy. It's Joe Montana. Joe Montana is a 3-time winner of the Super Bowl MVP. He's won 4 Super Bowls. He has the best accumulative Super Bowl passer rating. So he performed the best statistically as far as passing percentage and touchdown to interception ratio and all of those contributing factors that come into passer rating. He has the best passer rating accumulative in the Super Bowl. I say that intentionally because the best statistical passing percentage in the Super Bowl is actually Phil Simms. Phil Simms in one Super Bowl passed for 88%, which is pretty impressive. But he also hasn't been as many Super Bowls as Joe Montana. So Joe Montana winning 4 of them and having the best is pretty impressive. He played. I wrote down he's played more than 1 game, so it's worth mentioning. My number 3 Super Bowl Mount Rushmore is gonna piss some people off, but I put Patrick Mahomes on the Super Bowl Mount Rushmore. And here's why. It's the story leading up to the Super Bowl and including the Super Bowl. He basically in his rookie season, let's be honest, he didn't really play in his rookie season. And if this was the NBA, his MVP season would have been his rookie of the year season too, right? But let's take that away. So he wins MVP in his first year as a starter. In his second year as a starter, he wins the Super Bowl MVP against what most people considered the best defense in football. He beats the best defense in football on the biggest stage. He also comes from behind 3 times, and in my opinion, is the sole reason the team didn't quit. He was the motivating factor, not just the best player on the field, but also the motivating factor to get back into those games and beat guys like Deshaun Watson, who's one of the best up-and-coming quarterbacks in the league, beat the MVP Lamar Jackson, and then beat the Defensive Rookie of the Year and one of the best teams in football in the 49ers. So just the resume puts him there for me. I also look at what he could be, and to be honest, I take that into consideration. I probably shouldn't, but part of me thinks this guy's going to win some more Super Bowls, and he's going to be one of those guys that we talk about when we talk about Brady, when we talk about Montana, right? And then lastly, I threw this one in there because I think it's a great guy to bring up when it comes to Super Bowl MVPs because it's an excellent story. And that's Desmond Howard of your Green Bay Packers, who is the only special teams player to win Super Bowl MVP.
Correct, Mundo.
That's very important to me, to be the only guy to win probably the biggest award besides the season MVP. Some people would actually argue the Super Bowl MVP is more important because it's the most important game, right? So on the greatest stage of the ball, you were the best player or you were the most contributing player to the victory. In that Super Bowl, which I didn't write down the date, unfortunately, he had a 99-yard kick return to basically take the game away. They were winning by only 6 points before that play, and that iced the game from that point on. In that Super Bowl, he didn't He didn't catch a pass. He didn't run for a yard. Every yard he got was special teams yardage, and he had 244 yards plus that touchdown. So to me, that guy is on my Super Bowl MVP because he's somebody that I think special teams players, the Devin Hesters, the Josh Cribbs of the world, should be looking at him saying, I could be that guy. I could be a Super Bowl MVP if I'm put in that situation. So I like that. And then, so I know it's 4, but if I was to not say Mahomes, because I think I'm a little bit leaning on the Mahomes side right now, my other guy is a guy like a Von Miller, who, let's be honest, Peyton Manning was not great in that Super Bowl. Von Miller, the leader of that defense, the leader of the charge, the guy who swarmed Cam Newton, that was one of the most impressive defensive performances, and it was on the greatest stage of them all against the league MVP.
He's also the most recent defensive player to actually win that Super Bowl.
And it's against the league, that year's league MVP.
Yep.
So that guy, most people think he's the best player in the league. I'm stopping him on the biggest game.
Yep.
That matters to me. So he's one of my Super Bowl MVPs.
So we have 2 of the same.
Okay.
Well, actually, yes. If you take out Patty, then yes, we have 2 of the same. I too have Von Miller up there.
Okay.
His performance for what should have been considered a lock for a quarterback MVP that year.
Yeah.
For him to come in as a defensive player and get the MVP,
nice.
That's super impressive.
Yeah, you had the league MVP in Newton and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Manning facing off. You're right. Most people would have assumed one of them is winning MVP. Yes. 100%. I completely agree.
Yes. Joe Montana, also up there. More because of the sheer dominance of his performances during the Super Bowls those couple of years.
Always a good quarterback, even better in the Super Bowl.
But there was a reason for it. There was one crucial reason for it, and that was Jerry Rice, who is also on my Mount Rushmore for Super Bowl MVPs.
Ooh.
Come on.
Okay.
You can't. At the end of the day, if you look at anything to do with Super Bowl MVP, offensive player, wide receiver, Jerry Rice is on that list. There's a reason he's up there. He is, I'll say it, he's the greatest wide receiver of all time.
That's a fact.
Period. Argue it, you're probably going to be wrong.
To my opinion, not the most skillful, but definitely the best.
Oh, sorry. Got a weird text message there. So you're saying I'm most skillful?
I think the most skillful wide receiver of all time was Chris Carter. That's personal preference because I think he had the best hands the NFL has ever seen.
Okay. We made a little bit sure.
Jerry Rice is a more complete receiver, though.
And my number 4.
Yep.
Got Mount Rushmore, no particular order. The winner of Super Bowl MVP 1 and 2, Bart Starr. Not because I'm a Packer fan, but because it all started there.
Yep.
It all started with the Super Bowl 1 and 2. That's when you had the first ever time that the NFC and the AFC, or I guess the NFL, which turned into the NFC, AFC, faced off.
Yep.
So to win 1 and 2, get the MVP, definitely should be up there.
To create the Packers' legacy.
It
really started with him.
I get that, but we're talking Super Bowl MVP. You can't take away from the fact being that he was 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. He should be up on that Mount Rushmore for sure. So that's my 4 for that. Super Bowl MVPs. Again, there's a whole bunch out there.
I like the Jerry Rice edition.
Yeah, I mean,
I like the Jerry Rice edition.
Can't not include him in there.
You like the Desmond Howard?
Desmond Howard, I love, not because of the Packer, but it's so true. As special teams to be considered.
Who else has ever done it?
At the same time, is it really that he deserved it, or did nobody else really perform that well? Because I mean, if you like
244 yards,
like Julian Edelman winning the MVP last year or 2 years ago,
it's just because it wasn't a good game.
It was a horrible game.
It was a bad
game. And up until the last 12 or 8 minutes, I think it was. It was going to be a kicker at that point.
Yeah,
there was no defense like
possibly
defensive players. Yeah,
with the most cumulative yards gained.
It was horrible. All right, so we covered our Super Bowl MVPs. I think next up is utility players in baseball.
Yep. I'm excited for this list.
Okay, so this is a really, really hard one because you got to take in like what is considered a utility player.
Okay, so let's define that.
Okay.
I want you to give me your definition of utility player. Because my definition determined who I put on my list.
So for me, a utility player is any player that you can put into not any position, but into multiple, 3 or more positions, I'll say.
Okay.
Because a shortstop to second base, not that big of a transition. A left fielder to
shortstop and second base.
A left fielder to a right fielder. Yes.
Yeah.
A left fielder to a right fielder again.
Or just outfielders.
Center field's a little bit different. You have a lot more room to cover.
Right, but there are some people who just specialize in outfield, and I wouldn't call them utility players.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, it's anyone that plays 3 or more positions or can play 3 or more positions.
Okay.
Does that have to necessarily be in one season? No.
Okay.
So for me, it's interesting because, I mean, you got the obvious pick, the man who I'm pretty sure played every position, including pitcher, Babe Ruth.
Okay, so I put him on my list too.
You have to.
I thought you may be like, no, what are you talking about? Utility player.
I mean, he played every position.
He played every position.
He
spent most of his career at first, outfield, or pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to be a guy. Sorry to steal your thunder for a second.
No, go ahead.
But
he's on both our lists, so it's fine.
Yeah, he's won 89 games as a pitcher, and I don't even know what I wrote here. I can't read my own writing. But also, clearly, and we all know this, one of the most effective batters of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So to be a guy who has almost 100 wins as a pitcher and also be a great hitter is unheard of. It's insane. And he's probably one of the most iconic players in baseball. So to be an iconic player...
I would say he is the...
Yeah. Is there an MJ of baseball? And if so, is it Babe Ruth? Or is he the Bobby Orr?
He's the Bill Russell.
Fair.
He'd be the Bill Russell. He would be the original pioneer.
Yeah. The dominant force that was way ahead of his time.
Yes.
Okay. Who else do you have in your Mount Rushmore of utility players?
Coming in at number 2, it was a hard, this is a hard one because, again, you have to take into that consideration of what makes a utility player. Together with guys that have played so many different positions. I have, of your Texas Rangers, Michael Young.
Oh, of course. He's on my list as well.
Coming in as, he played, I think, every position infield. DH, was a great hitter on top of that. Definitely a player that you knew that you could put him at first, second, short, or third. Didn't matter. I think he played one game at catch, actually.
Wouldn't surprise me. He's probably pitched in
maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. I know he's played a game in outfield at least once.
Yep.
And a fantastic hitter. Definitely, when you look at the the Rangers during that period there in the late 2000s.
With Hamilton, Cruz, Beltran.
Yeah, he was a very strong contributing factor to that team.
So if I get to list off some career stats for him, at second base, he was a 5-time All-Star. At shortstop, he was an All-Star. At third base, he was also an All-Star, and he was an All-Star as a DH and utility guy. Mm-hmm. So he's an All-Star at every position he played, and he was listed as an All-Star at those particular positions as well. So it's not just he can play the position, he can excel in the position.
Yep.
He also was... he was a batting champion in 2005. When you think of utility players today, you think of a guy I can plug in place when my good player is tired, right? A lot of people think of that, like John McDonald when he played for the Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. His whole job was fill in for the better player when he's too tired to play, right? That's what utility players have become over time. So this guy was a batting champion as a utility player. He has a career 300 average. He's a gold winner. In my opinion, the greatest utility player of all time, but that's just...
A utility player to me is somebody that I can, again, move to any slot I need to. And when they become most crucial is when I am AL facing NL. And my DH is no longer a DH, but I need him in my lineup. So I plug him into first. I move my first to third. I move my third to wherever I got to move them. And I move me to wherever or my utility player to wherever they got to go.
Yep.
To fill in that spot.
One of my also contributing factors for a utility player. Let's say I'm making a lineup on the show. My utility player also is a pinch hitter.
Yeah.
The guy who comes into the game,
he's got to be able to hit,
takes over for somebody else, and then stays in the game.
So you know who I think is a really good definition of a utility player today? And again, I'm going to sound biased. Brock Holt.
Okay.
But Brock Holt took him years and years of going up through AA and AAA to be able to find a position. He played all these different positions because they couldn't find a position for him that
he needed one that would make him a major league player.
And now he's a major league player because he can play all of those positions. Yeah. I love having Brock Holt on Boston. Yeah. He's a decent hitter.
He's not on my list, but
he's not on my list either, actually.
I consider
he's not on my list either. There was a consideration factor. I just don't think that he's done enough to be able to be considered that when you have guys like Young and Bruce and Howard Kendrick.
Howard Kendrick was in consideration for me. I didn't put him on my list.
Really?
I did. You'll know why when I tell you my list.
Okay.
But I like the addition. Yeah.
Again, I definitely think all around. Like if you look again, like all around, like yes, he played. I think it was first, second, left field. I think was his big three.
I think most of his career at second.
Yeah, and then the batting aspect of it. He wasn't. Oh, he got starched. Oh, that's it. It's over. We're watching for those wondering what's going on right now.
This is kickboxing?
This is kickboxing.
Muay Thai.
Or no, sorry, the Muay Thai, yeah.
That's why
we are currently watching 1 FC.
Okay, he's done.
He got starched.
Good night.
Oh.
Good night.
We like to put stuff on in the background and watch it for a little bit of added fun here.
There's also just not enough time to catch up on all the sports.
It's very true. This is a busy weekend for MMA. But we'll get into that in our next episode.
Yeah.
Or previous episodes. We don't know how we're going to release these. This might come out backwards. We'll see what happens. Good times. Did you see? You watched me play this one?
Okay.
But I mean, he wasn't a bomber. Like he didn't hit jacks.
Right.
But he was a high percentage hitter.
Right.
He knew how to place that ball, get on base, which is great. My number 4 was an all-star. Oh, that knee. My number 4 was an all-star in 5 different positions.
Okay.
My number 1 should also be in the Hall of Fame, but is not because he was gambling on games. My final pick for my Mount Rushmore is one Pete Rose.
I like it.
A 5-position all-star. He for sure should be on that list. I mean, like you talk about how Young was there for 3 positions, I think it was.
No, more than at second 5 times, shortstop once, third once, and once as DH and utility.
Yeah.
So 4.
So 4 positions. Yeah. The only player to ever do it for 5 positions, Pete Rose. Not in fact being that, again, great hitter. It sucks because his legacy will forever be tarnished because he was gambling on games.
Should never take away from how good of a player he was.
No.
It's not like we're talking about steroids and saying, oh, he was a great home run hitter.
No, but you can say that.
Gambling didn't affect his ability to be a good player.
No, but it did affect the ability of his team success.
Right.
So,
fair point.
Then again, I mean, like, there's refs that don't get scrutinized as much for that, but so that is my Mount Rushmore. Brock Holt is somebody that, if I was to look 20 years into the future and add a 5th head, Brock Holt would be up there. Simply because he's a guy that, like I said, can play every position. Spent so much time in the farm system building to each position that, yes, I do think he could eventually get up there as well. Again, a consistent hitter, great on-base percentage. He's not a slugger, but somebody that I do believe has that potential. So I think we had we had 2.
We have 2 of the same.
Two of the same.
Michael Young and Babe Ruth.
Interesting.
I didn't think of Pete Rose.
So
that's a great one. I don't know if I would have chosen him over the other 2 though.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the guy whose name I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing. Steven Mullinix.
From the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays?
Yes. Third base, DH, shortstop, batter, 300 average batter 3 times. On base percentage of 400 in 1984. He was considered a dream team utility infielder. And he actually, just to throw in a little added position, he was a broadcaster as well. so
we're putting Greg Zahn up on that list too,
so
right?
He contributed to the game in many ways. And his biggest asset, and the reason why he's on my list, is he was an extremely effective pinch hitter. And to me, a utility player that can come in, pinch hit well, and then take the spot of the guy that he replaced in the batting order gives you so much advantage as a manager. So that's why he's on my list. Also, because I wanted to take from people from different eras, right? I didn't want too many people from the same era. He's around the same era as Pete Rose, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And then now I'm speaking modern, and many people consider the best utility player. He actually had a moniker of super utility, and that's Ben Zobrist.
I was about to say, can I guess your last pick for you? I was going to say Ben Zobrist.
Ben Zobrist is second base, shortstop, outfield. He's been in multiple All-Star games, and he's a switch hitter.
So I actually...
So as a pinch hitting utility man that can switch hit, that gives me so much advantage.
Ben Zobrist was on my list.
Yeah.
And the only reason I took him off was just because I think I blame it more on Tampa than I blame it on him.
Okay.
Just because I think with being on the Rays, it was hard to really get into that category of greatness.
Was he on the Cubbies when they won the World Series though?
Yeah, but I think I was on the tail end of it all.
Okay.
I don't like he wasn't as.
And was he on Kansas?
He wasn't
City as well.
No, when they won the World Series.
No, he wasn't.
No.
Okay.
Was he as impactful as he was in Tampa as he was on the Cubbies? No. But again, that Cubbies team was stacked.
But the thing that he brought to the team was his utility prowess.
I think it was that switch opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what's impressive to me.
He is on my Lincoln monument.
Okay.
He's my Lincoln monument for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
I'm not taking away from how great he is. But yeah, that was the one that I argue, went back and forth, like he was on, he was off. And because, again, he's called Mr. Utility, I completely agree with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was not as much impactful. I just don't think that he was utilized the way that he should have been. I mean, like I said, he was on the cusp. Like, if I could have a fifth head, he would be that fifth head.
Okay, fair.
Right? Like,
just like Pete Rose for me.
Yeah.
Pete Rose, now that I think about it, and I've heard your description, he'd probably replace Steve for me.
Yeah.
He'd take his spot, and I would have Babe, I'd have Pete, Ben, and Michael Young. That would be my line.
Yeah.
Okay, moving to our next Mount Rushmore, we're going with danglers.
Dirty fucking dangles.
The way we settled on this is we were thinking about guys who had the best hands, best deking skills, and then I also brought up maybe a category of penalty shooters. Dan made a good point. Most guys who are dirty danglers are also great penalty shooters. Yep. So we kind of combined it into one category. So for me, and I think he's going to be on everybody's list, Pavel Datsyuk.
Yep.
Pavel Datsyuk's to this day is still incredible. Playing in the KHL, he's pulling off some of the same moves he did in the end. The flick over top of the goalie.
The dirtiest of
dangles. His patience, too. I think that's something that needs to be taken into account with good danglers is just the ability to wait out the defender sometimes or wait out the goalie sometimes. Datsyuk, to me, epitomizes modern-day danglers, and I think he also inspired my next Mount Rushmore guy, which is Patrick Kane.
Okay.
A lot of Patrick Kane's game actually reminds me of Datsyuk. Mm-hmm. The patience, the ability to set up other people with his dangles. So, like, the thing that was cool about Datsyuk is he didn't always deke to score. Sometimes he deked to create space to set up someone else to score. Kane does the exact same thing in Chicago. We've been doing it for years. One of the best playmakers in the league, and a lot of that is because his puck control and his just patience, ability to wait out. A guy slides to try and block his pass, and he just holds onto the puck. He just waits for him to slide by, and then he passes the puck, or he flicks it over him, toe drags around him, whatever he does, and he sets up that next guy. Obviously, he's a great goal scorer as well, and a lot of his dangles have created incredible goals for him. But I think it's a overall game that's complete with his dangling ability. My last two, many people won't consider danglers. But for me, it's the puck skill at a high speed that blows my mind, and that's why I consider them some of the best puck handlers, some of the best hand-eye players in the league.
I think I have an idea of where you're going with at least one of these.
So the first one is playing in the league right now, probably the best player in the NHL, and his name's Connor McDavid.
Okay.
Connor McDavid skates at an incredibly fast speed. He this year was the first time anybody ever beat him in the All-Star game for the lap around the ice. So he's at least one of the fastest players in the league. Mm-hmm. I still think he's the fastest player in the league, especially when he has the puck. To be able to move at the pace that he moves and to make his dekes look so smooth and effortless, and that's what he looks like. When he's on the ice, it looks like it's easy. It looks like he is on a higher difficulty and everybody else is on a lower difficulty. And it's been like that since he came into the league. He was a rookie outclassing veterans on a daily basis. His puck skills are next level. The closest comparison to him that's also still in the league is Crosby, but Crosby's not on my list because there's one person, in my opinion, that edges out Crosby, and that's because he has the exact same skill set as Connor McDavid. He was a little bit before his time, and that's Pavel Bure.
Okay, so I was wrong.
So Pavel Bure's puck skills at a high pace blow my mind. The reason he is such an incredible scorer, the reason why he will always be thought of as one of the most dangerous players in NHL history is because he could get around you and snap the shot off quicker than you could adapt. And it was the speed in tune with the ability that made him so impressive. So he has that. He has the puck skills. It's not like he didn't have the handles. He had clear ability to dangle, but it was also the speed and the pace at which he did it, the angles that he took. Once again, similar to McDavid in the fact that it looks easy to him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look forced. It's not choppy. It's smooth, fast, and effective. Mm-hmm. So that's my Mount Rushmore of danglers.
So I'm with you on two, and that's Pavel's, Bure, and Datsuk.
Okay.
I completely.
I love
agree.
that you have Bure.
Yeah,
I love that.
They're both. I mean, hands down, some of the best anglers to ever step foot on the ice. The one that I have on my list that I thought you would have had, and I'm actually surprised you didn't, is still in the league. Has been in the league for a very, very long time.
Okay.
And was known for how dirty his hands were. Jaromir Jagr.
He's not still in the league.
Is he? I thought he was still in the league.
No.
Where is he now?
He left the league like 2 years ago.
No, it was not 2 years ago. He was definitely playing last year. They were still playing this year in Dallas.
No.
Am I wrong? Okay, well, whatever. You know what?
Dallas
Don't
is
care.
Radulov, if that's who you're picturing.
No, I'm picturing Jaromir Jagr.
Jagr's last team he played for in the NHL, I believe, was the Florida Panthers 2 years ago.
Where's time gone? Anyways.
He was the elder statesman coaching up.
Jagr was known for two things. Snipes and dangles.
I agree.
And he was doing it for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So for me, I definitely have to have him up there. And again, I guess it goes in, like, he was generations with Bure and with Datsuk.
Yep.
So he was definitely there for those. Another one, I mean...
And part of Gretzky.
Yep. We're talking about dangles, though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call Gretzky a dangler, necessarily.
Yeah, he's not in my Mount Rushmore.
No.
Danglers.
There are a couple guys that, I mean, like... Crosby was up there for sure. Didn't really make the list.
Crosby's more strength on the puck.
He has some dangles. Crosby's got some dangles.
He's got dangles, but like no one can knock him off the puck.
Ovechkin stick handling, the way he skates, great. Eli Kovalchuk.
Yeah.
I agree with Connor McDavid. Not quite on the list though. Because there's one guy that had a highlight reel. He was literally, every time he was on the ice, it was a highlight reel of just stick handling magnificence. And that was Alex Kovalev.
Kovalev?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. There were times where, yes, you know what? He quit plays. Yep. He quit plays. It looked like his controller turned off in the middle of chow. He just stopped skating. But when that man had the puck in his hand and it was in the zone, buddy.
I'm actually Googling Alex Kovalev so I can get his face. Yes, okay.
To get his face, get his highlight reel. That man would skate circles around players. It's funny, he was one of those guys that he could do, if it was him versus a defender, if it was him versus, both defenders, or if it was him versus the entire team, if it was him in a shootout, he knew how to handle that puck magnificently. He was so smooth. But it's funny because we were talking about, so he came on my list when I was actually talking about shootouts. And we were talking about shootouts, and I was like, okay, St. Louis was on a list, obviously.
Was Jussi Jokinen on your list?
Yes, he was actually.
The go-to move.
TJ Oshie was on that list as well.
Yeah,
but that was just because of that USA. That was just because of the USA game. But St. Louis, obviously.
Yeah.
That dirty wraparound, or that dirty, not the wraparound, the spin. Mm-hmm. Where he just kept puck constant forward motion. But during the game, would I say that he was one of the best stick handlers? Not necessarily. I think his size had a lot to do with how good he really was at stick handling. But
yeah, because you got knocked off the puck pretty easily.
Yeah, that's the problem. If you got hit, you were gone.
Yeah.
So that's the list for stick handlers.
I like it. I like the Kovalev. That's not something I would have chosen. Okay. I like it.
Next up, we're doing clutch shooters in the NBA.
Okay. And so let's first of all define what we mean by clutch in the NBA.
Okay.
So for me, it's got to be in clutch moments.
Okay.
So scoring a 3-pointer on the opening basket of the game is not a clutch moment.
Putting up 32 threes throughout a game, you're already blowing out anyway. It doesn't mean anything.
It's got to be game-winning jumpers, buzzer beaters, final 2 minutes of the game, playoff moments that swung the game in your favor maybe. You guys were behind and they were pouring it on, and then you hit this dagger and it brought your team back from the brink of death, kind of thing. Those kind of clutch moments.
Now, do you include one-game moments?
What do you mean by that?
I mean like a Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady putting up, what was it, 30 points in...
with the Rockets?
Yeah.
Okay, but was that... See, to me, that was a game that didn't really matter. It was an iconic moment.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
I was just asking.
I don't know if I would consider it clutch. I'd consider it dominant. I would consider it impressive. Like Kobe getting 81 on the Raptors wasn't clutch.
No.
It was a beatdown.
Yeah.
Right? And it's what he needed to do in order to win the game.
Yeah.
They couldn't win without him scoring those 81 points, right? So, yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. Okay, give me your start with your Rushmore.
So
clutch shooters.
Clutch shooters. For me, it's again kind of it's one of those ones where there's so many clutch moments. You got to think about who's really had the most. And I think back to the late, I think it was like the 98 2001 Lakers. I put Derek Fisher on that list.
I like this addition.
So Derek Fisher is a guy that knows when, great 3-point shooter to begin with, but you know that you can dish the ball to him when you're down by 12 points, and he's going to hit the basket 8 times out of 10.
When you pass to him.
Okay, well, yes, there's the Kobe factor. Now, the reason I'm going to say Kobe's not on my list.
It's because he also...
Kobe was a clutch playmaker.
Yeah.
Kobe didn't necessarily have to shoot that ball. He could lay that ball up. He could dunk that ball.
Okay.
He could make the play. Derek Fisher was a guy that you put the ball in his hand, he could take the shot. And he won them, I think in that playoff series alone, or the playoffs alone, I think he won them coming in the clutch opportunities was like, what was that 99-2000 season? I think he had like 8 games where he scored game-winning baskets throughout the entire playoffs.
Okay.
That's fucking impressive.
Yep.
Another guy, again, same thing from that same era was Robert Horry.
I like Robert Horry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, same thing coming out of San Antonio. And San Antonio's basketball has always been very boring, and it's been very much.
Well, Robert Horry played everywhere.
Well, the thing is, I mean, like him in San Antonio, I'm talking about, right? Because when he was there, like that was, I think, where he really shined in that opportunity. Maybe because it was such boring basketball to watch, and the opportunities weren't as impressive as they usually were.
Well, he played for the Lakers and the Bulls too, right?
Well, I mean, when he played for the Lakers, he played in the Lakers during that Derek Fisher, Rick Fox, Kobe, Shaq, that team.
Yep.
So I wouldn't say he was as clutch as Fisher was during that period. During that San Antonio time, that was a little bit different. That's where I think he really got to shine with those opportunities.
Okay.
Now this is where everything kind of gets really, really tight.
Okay.
So clutch shooters.
Yep.
Ray Allen, great shooter.
Missed a lot of clutch shots.
Missed a lot of clutch shots. Kawhi Leonard hit what can be considered the most clutch shot of all time if you're a Raptors fan.
Definitely if you're a Raptors fan.
Does that make him a clutch shooter? No. I don't think he's the Mount Rushmore.
I also don't think he's been around long enough to be considered one
Fact.
of the greatest clutch shooters of all time.
Fact. He hasn't been in enough clutch moments.
Yeah.
Reggie Miller is a guy who has been in enough clutch moments.
So Reggie Miller's on my list.
Yeah, damn right he is. Reggie Miller's a guy who's been in enough clutch moments that to have him off this list would be an abomination.
Game 4, 1998, Eastern Conference Final, cash over MJ. Mm-hmm. That's all you need to say. It's the shot.
I'm not gonna lie, the time that he had to shut up Spike Lee, though, I'm going to give him a clutch shooter just for that moment where Spike Lee's sitting on the bench at the Knicks talking shit to him, and he just turns, drains the 3, looks at Spike Lee, and just shushes him. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Reggie Miller's on everybody's list.
Yeah, Reggie Miller is king clutch.
So then it's the number 4. That number 4 spot.
So, sorry, run back your 3. Your 3 is...
Fisher,
Horry, Miller. Okay. I only have one with you right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Clutch shot. Coming up big. Led what I actually consider to be one of the most underrated teams when you talk about greatness.
Okay.
Chauncey Billups.
Yes.
Chauncey Billups for the Detroit Pistons.
Yes.
05-06 season.
The team that had no superstar.
No. They had a lot of great pieces.
Good players.
And you want to talk about clutch shots.
Yeah.
Chauncey Billups was that guy. And I don't necessarily mean the 3. We're talking mid-range too. Like he
It doesn't need to be a 3.
No.
It doesn't need to be a 3.
But
It could be a clutch free throw.
Yeah.
Like game on the line.
No, because that means like are you that means that's clutch player to me.
Well, you're down by 1. It's shooting. It's a free throw is a shot.
Unless you're Shaq, you have a pretty good free throw percentage in most cases.
It's freaking stressful.
In most cases, sure, absolutely.
Let's say
down by 1 and I get 2 shots, and I'm not. Yeah. My name's not Shaquille O'Neal. I'm probably going to hit the shot, or Charles Barkley. Just saying.
Wow. Okay.
So that's I definitely think Billups is on that list.
I like Billups on that.
I'm kind of curious as to where your clutch shooters are going to go. I feel like I know one of the names I'm missing on yours, but they sit upon another list for me.
Okay. So, Reggie Miller. You and I both have Reggie Miller. I have MJ.
That's the one.
So I have MJ. He has 109 clutch minutes played. He's multiple game-winning jumpers, including playoff games. He also was the guy that was like, oh, the game's on the line. Give me the ball and get out of my way. Greatest basketball player of all time, in my opinion, and I think the most clutch shooter of all time.
So this is why he wasn't on mine, was because I did find that a lot of those clutch shots were in the free throws, which then has to go more with the clutch.
But he also
aspect. He did. No,
game-winning buzzer beaters, game-winning cash shots.
I'm not saying he didn't, but when you look at...
And 109 game clutch played minutes.
Yeah. Well, who else are you going to put on the freaking court other than the greatest of all time?
Yeah.
Fact.
Yeah. He's always in the playoffs.
I'm not
more clutch moments in the playoffs.
I'm down by 4 points with a minute left to go. Guess what, MJ? You're running 60 seconds. Sorry. I agree.
I have a comment on that, but we'll go. There's one guy I want to give the ball if I need 2 points.
Okay.
So, John Stockton.
Oh, I hate myself for forgetting John Stockton.
Steal and score the shot to win and send his team to the finals. John Stockton, to me, is one of the most clutch shooters of all time. LeBron James. LeBron James has played in more clutch moments than any player in NBA history.
I'm walking out of this room right now.
He has. He is the best.
Clutch shots?
He is the best statistical clutch shooter in NBA history. He has scored more game-winning shots in the playoffs than any player in history. He has scored more points than any player in history in the last 2 minutes of a playoff game. And that's because he's been in the playoffs a lot. But he is the most clutch shooter in NBA history statistically. I'm not saying he is the best. I'm just saying statistically he is. He's played in 354 clutch minutes. That's 200. That's 240 something more than MJ. More than doubled MJ's clutch minutes. And he lays it all on the line in the playoffs. And not all of LeBron's points are dunks. He scores a lot of points with his mid-range jumper and his fadeaway. And to allude to what I was saying before, the guy who I give the ball, so if I need 2 points right now, more than anything, and it's just 2 points, the ball's going to Shaq.
Okay.
Stop him. No. I dare you. Stop him.
Whoa, no. Hold on. Whoa. We're talking clutch shots.
I know. I didn't.
Shots.
That's why he's not on my clutch shot list. I'm saying if I want someone to give me 2 points right now, it's Shaq.
Okay.
2 points right now, Shaq, then LeBron, then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he had the most unstoppable shot in the NBA.
Okay.
And then Bill Russell.
Okay.
You did not like the LeBron.
No, I don't agree with the LeBron spot there.
Okay. The stats are upset with you. This is a hard one to narrow down to a Mount Rushmore, but we're going to try it. I think I have 8 options here.
You have 8 options.
So I'm going to cut it in half somehow. Biggest busts in sports. So by busts, for anyone who's not paying attention, and who isn't sports fans and is just listening to us for fun for some reason. Hi, thank you. Also, bust means that somebody who was drafted with a lot of promise, a lot of expectation, or let's say could even be someone that was traded to a team and you gave up a lot to get him because you expected a lot from him and he didn't end up becoming much. But it's typically referring to draft. This is usually a draft bust. Mm-hmm. So if you draft someone first overall and they're an absolute dud, that would be considered a bust. Okay? I don't think that you have anything to add with what a bust is.
No, I would agree.
A bust is also a bronze depiction of your head that's been carved into bronze. It's considered a bust.
A bust is an action sometimes. In regards to nuts.
This guy. Okay, so I'm going to try and do different sports. Although I will say, in the NFL's case, it's easier to have busts in the NFL.
Yes.
There's more positions, therefore there's more potential for someone to be a contributing factor, which also means there's more potential for them to be a bust. Mm-hmm. Right? So I'll throw that out there. To me, the worst bust in NFL history is Ryan Leaf. There's a couple other guys that I would consider, but Ryan Leaf to me is the worst bust.
Fair.
Here's why.
Fair.
He was drafted 2nd overall in the 1998 draft. He is 4-17 as a starter. His career interception numbers more than double his touchdown numbers. He has 14 touchdowns and 36 interceptions. When you draft a quarterback 2nd overall, you are expecting him to be your franchise quarterback. There is no other expectation for a 2nd overall pick on a QB. He, to me, is the worst NFL bust. Biggest NFL bust. Transitioning to the NBA, this is also a deep field of draft busts. Part of me wants to say the Canadian, but I'm not going to say the Canadian. I'm going to say Kwame Brown. The reason why, first of all, this was the sign that MJ had no idea how to be a GM. MJ thought this guy was more than everybody else thought he was. MJ drafts him. He becomes nothing.
So that's exactly why he's not on my bust list. Because at the end of the day,
no one thought of as highly as him as MJ did.
I would be more inclined to put MJ on my bust list for that. MJ as a GM.
Okay.
And Kwame.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I know who yours is for the NBA. Hockey. Biggest draft bust. Rick DiPietro for me.
Okay.
2000 first overall pick. The biggest reason why he's a bust is because they signed him to a 15-year, $67.5 million contract. In order to afford Rick DiPietro, they had to offload Luongo, who went to the Florida Panthers and became one of the best in-season goaltenders in the NHL. Not a very good playoff goaltender, but way better than DiPietro ever was. To me, he's the biggest draft bust for the NHL. Now, I don't have a big draft bust for baseball. Here's why. Baseball is the deepest draft in all of sports. It has so many friggin' rounds, and it has so many different positions. It's very difficult to determine someone a bust. The only way to say someone's a bust in baseball is if the first overall pick is bad. To me, there isn't a glaring first overall pick that's a bust. I can't think of one. I didn't necessarily do the research to find one. Sure there is, but in my mind, none that stand out. So I have one more basketball bust to bring up. And he may not be as obvious as other people think, but I think it's pretty bad considering what they could have had if they didn't draft him. And that's Darko Milicic. Darko Milicic was in the exact same draft as LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. These are NBA champions, Hall of Famers. I think we're still out on Bosh a little bit. I personally think he'd be a Hall of Famer. But all of them much better than Milicic. Milicic was drafted 2nd overall, so he's drafted right after LeBron. So you think to yourself, what could we have done to maybe get that pick, right? Probably not much because he went to his hometown team. Anyways, he averaged in his career 6 points and 4 rebounds. 2nd overall pick. 6 points and 4 rebounds. He didn't even need to look up what LeBron, Melo, Bosh, and Wade have averaged, because I know all of them have averaged better than that in their career. So yeah, that's my Mount Rushmore of busts. There's a couple other, there's several other guys that I wanted to put on the list, but I could only have 4.
All right, so I completely agree with you on Ryan Leaf. That is definitely, if not the biggest bust, one of the biggest busts, for sure. But that's the thing about kind of where we line up. It ends there.
So just one on this one. I think that's the least we've had in common.
Yes.
Okay.
I have 2 football, 2 basketball. Well, I have 2 football players, 2 basketball players, should I say. My other one, Jamarcus Russell. First overall draft pick in the 2007 draft. Played 3 seasons with Oakland. Did nothing. Then essentially, ballooned up, got cut, and then that was the end of that. You want to talk about a disappointing draft pick? Yeah, definitely up there. Brian Boz, the Boz. Another possible opportunity there. Really bad linebacker. Number 1 draft pick, was a huge bust, but not the biggest. Because then you got guys like Greg Oden. NBA number 1 overall draft pick 2008. Played a grand total in 7 years. 7 years? I think it was. 8 games? 87 games? My apologies.
He was in the league that long?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That is... From all of what he should have been coming into the league to what he was.
My problem with putting Greg Oden on the list is that was completely based off injuries.
That's still a bust.
If he never got hurt, he would have been an NBA center.
Would he have been great? We don't know. That's a bust. Regardless of injuries or not, it's a bust. Here's my last one. Yeah. And I say this when I say 2 football, 2 basketball. I think you know where I'm going with this one. I think you know exactly where I'm going with this one. One of my biggest busts, and on my Mount Rushmore for the purposes of what it meant. One of the greatest basketball players, if not the greatest basketball player to ever have played the game, Michael Jordan, sits on my Mount Rushmore of busts.
For baseball. Yeah, you said football.
No, I said basketball.
Oh, okay.
So he's a basketball player. I did not say he was there because of basketball. I said he was there. He was on my list as a basketball player.
Okay.
He showed, I guess he was the first major one that showed that greatness cannot transcend per sport. He was not a Bo Jackson. Now, Bo Jackson was not a great football player nor a great baseball player. He was a good both.
I would say that he had moments of greatness as a
Moments of greatness doesn't make him great.
Football.
Moments of greatness do not make you great. Matt Ryan has had moments of greatness. He is not a great quarterback. Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls. He is not a great quarterback.
Okay.
Michael Jordan proved that athleticism and talent does not transcend per sport. And that is why I put him on my Mount Rushmore of sports busts.
Where was he drafted in baseball?
I don't think he was actually drafted. But what's making him considered a bust is the amount of hype that he had behind him. I don't think he was up for the draft, actually. I think he signed as a free agent.
Yeah, I think he signed as a free agent as well. And that's why, that would be my only caveat as to why he's not a bust, is because bust is referring to someone who you've drafted.
No, a bust is referred to somebody that is supposed to achieve greatness. You can say that a team...
Nobody expected him to be a great baseball player.
Hold on a second. Let's go. We were kids when this happened. That's why I remember this. There was a lot in the media talking about how he was going to do
to play baseball.
Yeah.
Most people were like, why are you doing this? You're going to ruin your legacy. That's why I wouldn't consider him a bust. He didn't have high expectations. No one expected him to be an MVP baseball player. Nobody even expected him to be an everyday baseball player.
Well, for as bad as he did, I'm a little surprised.
Well, I see what you're saying as far as he had a legacy. He had this name. He had this, it wasn't just like he was a really good wasn't just a really good basketball player. Wow. Basketball.
Basketball?
Yeah. He wasn't just good at basketball. He was the best ever. So when the best ever plays another sport, you think he'll be at least really good. And he wasn't.
No.
So I can see what you're saying now.
Next up, we've got underdogs. So we're talking, again, all sports. Some of the biggest underdogs to have ever competed. Be that a team, be that a player. This one's one of those ones that it was hard to kind of
There's so many options.
There really is. You start thinking about things like, outside of sports that we don't necessarily watch, but like things from like the Olympics, right? It's so difficult when you go back and think about all the times you've had all these underdogs throughout the years. One of my big ones was one of the first teams I remember as a kid watching, going, this team's an underdog because the team that they're going up against has shown domination for a long period of time now, and that was the New Jersey Devils of 1995.
My favorite hockey team of all time.
When they went on to beat the Detroit Red Wings in the Stanley Cup Finals. That is the definition of an underdog. That is, you are taking your...
Now, they were a good team, though.
They were, but that was the Detroit Red Wings that were killing people for years. And the Devils... I mean, the Devils just swept them. Like, they took it 4-0. So, nobody expected that to happen. There's no question about it. And it was, like I said, that first time as a kid I remember really seeing and kind of understanding what an underdog really is. Yeah. As a kid, I was like, oh man, like Detroit Red Wings are great. They're such a good team. And Jersey ran through them. Another one, this one hurts.
Okay.
When you look at Mount Rushmores of underdogs, you talk again about the swept and teams that nobody thought could win. The most recent Mount Rushmore on my list comes from last year when the Columbus Blue Jackets swept the ever-dominating league leaders, considered arguably one of the best NHL teams of all time, got swept. Now, Columbus went on to lose the next series.
Yeah.
But in that moment of no one believing in Columbus, and they swept the Lightning.
It wasn't just like the Lightning was the best team in the league that year. They were
considered one of the best teams of all time.
Yeah.
Had they gone on to win the Stanley Cup, people would have said, yes, this is the best NHL team of all time.
And it was expected.
Yes.
Like, yeah, of course they won the Cup.
Yeah.
Like, who else was going to win the Cup? That was the mentality.
It was the 96 Bulls.
If it wasn't for Columbus, St. Louis wouldn't have won the Cup.
Fact. They were supposed to be the 96 Bulls, and it didn't happen because Columbus ran through them, and ran through them in very dominant fashion too. So,
yeah,
I mean,
a 4-game sweep, right?
Yeah, not just a 4-game sweep though. Like, it was multiple goals per game differential.
Crazy.
Like, it was nuts. So they're definitely on there.
Tortorella got some revenge.
Yeah. Now, jumping kind of out of the world of hockey, going into the world of football. Another team that nobody had any betting odds for were the New York Giants. I think it was the 2009 Super Bowl against the New England Patriots.
Was that the year New England was 16-0?
That was the year that New England was trying to tie that Miami record.
Yeah.
And the Giants put a stop to that. Eli Manning and the New York Giants, who again, that whole season, they did not look like a championship quality team. Mm-hmm. But they had a great playoff run. They went into the Super Bowl, and nobody was betting on the Giants to win that.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a cakewalk for the Patriots. And that's where we all discovered what Tom Brady's kryptonite really was, and it lied in Eli Manning. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say it was the Mannings, because it was just Eli.
Osi Umenyiora and Michael Strahan, something to do with that, but yes.
Well, was that? But don't forget, they weren't there the second.
No, they were the first time. The second time was Osi Umenyiora and Justin Tuck.
Okay, so we're going to say Osi
Umenyiora.
I cannot say his name. I've never been able to. Justin Tuck, I love that guy. Always have.
Yeah.
But Eli Manning became that kryptonite to Tom Brady, and that's where we first got to see it.
Yep.
Now, the fourth one comes from the world of mixed martial arts.
I know what you're gonna say.
Well, it was really this. It was this, or it was Ronda.
Okay.
And The only reason I didn't pick Ronda versus Holly Holm was because Ronda herself said that the only way I'm going to lose is she catch me with a head kick, and I come in hot-headed. She predicted her own loss, so boom. You don't have faith in yourself. To me, you're not an underdog anymore. You already lost.
Okay.
So that leaves the biggest upset, the biggest Vegas betting odd upset in mixed martial arts history.
Is it still?
Yes, it beats out Connor and Nate.
Because there's been a couple big upsets recently.
None bigger than George St. Pierre and Matt Serra. Now, I will never know for sure what was the contributing factor to this. Was it George underestimating Matt, or was it Matt catching George off guard by rushing in right away and just coming in heavy? Combination of both, quite possible. But nobody had Matt Serra beating George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
Like, to go back and watch that and Serra just come rushing out and like, I think in my mind, watching that, Matt Serra was a guy that said, you know what? I'm not going to out-wrestle him. I'm not going to outstrike him. I have zero to lose here. Yeah. All I got to do is make it look like I got heart. If I make it look like heart, people are going to believe in me. And that's great. And what happened? Hart just won you a championship. Yeah. You lost the rematch. Yeah. In very dominant fashion. But
you beat him.
You have, in what my mind and the mind of many, is considered the greatest upset in mixed martial arts history. So those are my 4. I feel like you might have one of my 4 on your list. But I'm curious as to what the other 3 are.
So when I first made this list, I went with people, not teams. And when you brought up the Columbus Blue Jackets and the New Jersey Devils, first of all, my favorite hockey team ever was that 95 Devils squad. Uh-huh. Scott Stevens is still by far one of my favorite players of all time. And Brodeur. For that, it changed what I was going to say. So I want to throw out some of the ones that I was considering first. So I considered Nick Foles. I considered Nick Foles taking over for the guy who was on track to be the MVP and bringing that team to the Super Bowl as the ultimate underdogs. They weren't even supposed to get to the game, and then they get to the game and they beat the guy who has won the most games in Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. The guy who always wins the Super Bowl unless your name is Eli Manning. So Nick Foles did that again. So I considered him, and I want him to be there, but Manning did it first, and Manning did it twice. So for me, Eli Manning is the football underdog as far as the guy who has beaten Tom Brady, who wasn't expected to beat him. He did it twice. He's 2-0 against Tom Brady in Super Bowls. So in the biggest stage of it all, he's beaten the best, the guy who we call the GOAT. To me, that's the ultimate underdog as far as football is concerned. I had tons for football. So many guys you can bring up. So Nick Foles is one of them. I also wanted to say Vinny Papale. Vinny Papale goes from a bartender in Philly to playing for his Eagles because of a tryout.
Forgot about that.
That's a great underdog.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
How dare I forget about Mark Wahlberg?
Right? Who can forget Mark Wahlberg? Speaking of movies that became, or real life stories that became movies, you got $1 Million Baby. $1 Million Baby is a great underdog story, right? But I'm not going with all of those. One of my most recent underdog stories that I was a big fan of, and I'm upset that he lost his belt, but it makes sense because, let's be honest, Anthony Joshua is the better fighter, and that's Angelo Reese. Right? Nobody had him beating Anthony Joshua. He beats him, shocks the world, had world heavyweight champion, baddest man on earth. That was big for me. So that's an underdog for me, recent memory underdog. I considered Warren Moon, the first black quarterback to go. First of all, the guy went from the CFL to the NFL and played incredible football in the NFL. I considered Warren Moon. It's not on my list, though. So right now, who do I have? I have Eli Manning, and I have Angelo Reyes. Reyes. I have another quarterback. His name's Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner went from what was he? He was a grocery store shelf stocker who was playing arena football to becoming a Super Bowl champion, a 2-time Super Bowl attendee. He was an undrafted player. He was a league MVP twice, and he was a Super Bowl MVP. So to go from being literally stocking shelves and playing arena football, which is considered far beneath the NFL, beneath college football even, to being a Super Bowl winning quarterback and actually to be in the big game twice, he's one of my all-time underdogs. Obviously, the second time he's not as much an underdog, but considering where he came from. And then I have a hard time deciding between the last three that I wrote down when you brought up the teams. I really like the Matt Serra one, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm going MMA, I'm going Matt Serra. But just because they're my boys and one of my favorite NHL teams of all time, I'm going with the LA Kings, who finished in 8th in the conference, barely made the playoffs. Every single series went 7 games. They had to beat the number 1 team in the Western Conference to even make it to the next round of the playoffs. And they go on to win the Stanley Cup against my other team, the Devils. It's one of my favorite Stanley Cups of all time. It's 2 of my favorite teams facing each other. And the Kings take away the wing. So for me, that team that barely even made the Stanley Cup, most people didn't think we're even going to be a playoff team, and then winning multiple 7-game series on their way to winning a cup, that was my underdog team for the NHL.
Okay.
Very hard to choose between a lot of these because there's so many good underdog stories. Yes. I also had Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey written down, but like you said, it wasn't as big of a shock as Matt Serra beating GSP.
Yes. So if we're going to remove the player aspect, or sorry, not the player aspect, the team aspect from the underdog story, then I definitely will agree with Nick Foles. Nick Foles should be up on there for sure. You also want to talk about underdogs that really, I don't want to call them an underdog or necessarily. Well, you know what? No, we'll call it underdog. Because, there's even a meme out there about it. Biggest underdogs individual-wise for a career that they had, Steve Nash.
Yep.
Steve Nash, nobody expected the white guy in Canada.
South African descent.
To win the most MVPs of that draft class. Especially when you guys like Kobe in that draft class as well.
Yeah.
But I can't even believe that I forgot this one. I think the biggest underdog story in any combat sport came from the world of boxing. It goes by the name of Buster Douglas.
Yes.
The man that knocked out Mike Tyson.
Yes.
So if we're going to go individual heads, then it's Ronda. Or not Ronda. It's Sarah.
Okay.
It's Buster Douglas.
Yep.
Steve Nash. And who else do I have on that list again?
You said Foles. Do you have Foles over Manning?
No, I had Foles for individual players, yes. I have Foles
over Manning.
Or no, I'll put Manning up there over Foles. I'll put Foles up there. No, I'll put Foles up there. Because Foles did it the whole season. Foles was a backup. Shouldn't have done it.
Okay, fair.
So
Eli Manning beat the 16-0 Patriots.
Yes. Nick Foles beat the Patriots as well.
But they weren't as dominant.
As a backup quarterback.
He didn't beat Randy Moss and
it's true.
Tom Brady.
Okay, fine. Holly Holm was up on the list then. Screw them both.
Yeah, I like the underdog list. It's a good list. It's very debatable. There's too many options, especially if you're doing all sports. You almost have to do one for every sport. So if you're doing all sports, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of options. There's a lot of that's one of the things that we love about sports is the underdog story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons why people watch sports is because they cheer for the guy that's not the favorite. A lot of people cheer against John Jones now, right? Because, I want to see him get beaten. Can anybody do it, right? Floyd Mayweather, main reason a lot of people watch his fights is because they want to see him get beaten, right? So yeah, it's a huge part of sports. Another movie based off underdog story, Miracle, one of the greatest sports movies of all time.
Team USA hockey.
Team USA beating the Russian. That's everything. That's the ultimate underdog story right there.
D2, Team USA beating Iceland.
Oh my god. Okay.
Fourth quarter quarterbacks. So
clutch quarterbacks.
Well, I was saying,
you can call them fourth quarter QBs.
Well, they're fourth quarter QBs. Yeah, we're talking about quarterbacks that they come up with that clutch. If they're down in the fourth quarter, or if they're losing the fourth, or they put that big winning drive, or they have a massive quarter that gives them the game.
Yeah.
So what are your four there?
Okay. I don't even know how to start.
Well, that's a good thing with Mount Rushmore is you don't have to start necessarily with.
I'm going to start with Tom Brady.
Okay,
so Tom Brady, he has 10 game-winning drives in the playoffs. Most important part of football. 10 game-winning drives. So he right there is in my Mount Rushmore.
He's in mine as well, so we got that one tied up there.
John Elway.
Okay, not in mine.
John Elway has 35, count that, 35 fourth quarter comebacks. He also won the AFC Championship game on a 98-yard drive. A 98-yard drive.
Okay.
There's only 2 yards left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Brady and Elway. Who do I want to go next? I want to go Montana next.
Really?
Montana's on the field in the playoffs. Game-winning drive situation. Points into the crowd and goes, "Hey, is that John Candy?" Montana can't be flinched. Doesn't care if how good your defense is, what game is on the line. Nothing fazed the man. 33 game-winning drives, 31 fourth quarter comebacks. Game-winning drives, 33.
Yep.
31 fourth quarter comebacks. That's not just comebacks. Fourth quarter.
Yep.
And last but not least, Peyton Manning. 45 fourth quarter comebacks. 56 game-winning drives. That's my Mount Rushmore.
All right. So you and I agree with Brady.
Okay.
And we agree with Montana.
Okay.
Those are definitely both up there for me. One of my others is retired currently. The other is still active.
Okay.
It is not Peyton Manning.
Okay.
It is one Tony Romo.
Okay.
Now, Tony Romo, at the end of the day, as...
You're right. He's a great
fourth quarter
commentator.
He's a great fourth quarter quarterback. Fourth quarter. We're talking fourth quarter.
Yes.
I ain't talking the whole game. I'm not talking about the whole game. Okay? I'm not talking about quarter one. I'm not talking about quarter two. I'm not talking about quarter three. I am talking about fourth quarter performances. Tony Romo, he's up there for sure. Ain't no question about it. That guy is very impressive in the fourth quarter. The sad thing about it, honestly, most times, it's too little too late.
Yeah.
Can't take away from his fourth quarter performances? No, because he has also had a lot of comebacks within that, though.
Yeah.
If you look at his fourth quarter stats, they are above and beyond a lot of players.
Yeah.
It's those other three quarters that kill him in the long run.
It's ultimately also an indictment on the Cowboys more than Romo.
Yes, 100%.
The teams he played for.
Tony Romo was and is a very smart quarterback. Yeah. He knows how to read a defense very well. And you see it with him as a commentator now, for sure.
One of the fastest releases in the NFL, too. The ball came out of his hands so quick.
So Tony Romo, definitely on that. And, of course, the king of fourth quarters. A man that makes it look like it's the easiest thing in the world to do. A man that has made a fourth quarter comeback in playoffs, in regular seasons, who has made a fourth quarter comeback so beautiful that replacement refs actually had to rob him of a fourth quarter comeback one time. And that is Aaron Rodgers.
This guy.
What do you mean? Tell me about somebody who has made a fourth quarter comeback look as pretty as many times as Aaron Rodgers has.
John Elway. John Elway, The Drive.
The Drive.
Johnny Unitas, The Drive.
Aaron Rodgers, The Drives. The Driven.
Aaron Rodgers.
The to be driven.
The throw the ball as far as you can and hope someone catches it.
And guess what? They catch it. They fucking catch that ball.
Is that him or is that them?
That's him. Stop it. And it's got more. It's more than just that. That man knows how to drive. Hold on a second. You tell me somebody that knows how to work a rushed offense better than he does. A no-huddle offense player, Aaron Rodgers is the guy. You give me a 2-minute drill quarterback, it is Aaron Rodgers all day.
Yeah, 2-minute drill. If it's a 2-minute drill, he's on my list.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what's on the fourth. Dude, that man knows how to rush a defense into being tired, into being disorganized. Yeah, Montana's on my list of fourth quarter quarterbacks as well. But I don't think you can really argue that one. Come on now.
Come on now.
You're being mean. All right. So next up we got what? Biggest draft steals?
Yes.
All right.
I think that's what we're ending on too.
I think that's where we
Okay. Draft steals.
Okay.
I have so many options for this. This is difficult. So
well,
you go first and I'll try and say 4 you don't have.
Okay. So numero uno.
Okay.
Considered one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL. In the 2000 draft, I guess it was, from the New England Patriots, Tom Brady.
Yes.
A 6th round pick. Was a backup in Michigan. Was a backup to Drew Bledsoe. And now has more Super Bowl rings than anyone else.
Yep.
That to me is the definition of a bust.
Of a bust?
Sorry, not of a bust. Sorry, of a draft.
Yeah, that's a big bust.
Of a draft steal, or even a draft miss. Really, I mean.
Yeah, 198 guys chosen before him.
Yeah. It's now this is where it starts to kind of get a little funky. I mean. It's hard not to put him on the list for everything that he did. He was still a first-round pick, but he went 13th overall and then became, again, considered one of the greatest NBA players of all time. That's Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant went 13th overall.
Yep.
In the 1996 draft.
Yep.
Selected by the Charlotte Hornets, was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. That before even starting. Never actually dressed as a Hornet.
Right.
Was traded. And went on to essentially have his own era.
Yep.
Right? So I mean that's for me that's massive.
Yep. These are two of the GOATs too. You've brought up Brady and Kobe. These are two of the GOATs, and we're also talking about them in the same breath as a steal. So underrated, undervalued, lower expectations, and they're two of the greatest of all time.
Going into the world of hockey, I got another very recent one here.
Okay.
Dallas Stars captain, drafted 129th in the 2007 NHL draft, Jamie Benn.
I like it.
That is a man that
I like Jamie Benn.
Nobody expected what was to come out of him. It's insane to see someone drop so far to see what they have accomplished since then.
Yep.
And now, so when we said draft steals, do we say people that aren't drafted?
No, they got to be drafted or they're not a steal.
Okay.
They're a what would they be, like a diamond in the rough if they were undrafted?
Well, would they be? Because there's definitely some. I think there's definitely some.
Because Fred VanVleet is a diamond in the rough. But you can't steal someone from the draft if they weren't drafted.
Well, I mean, I think you definitely, if you can sign someone that's not drafted, I think that's definitely something you can do.
Right, but that's not stealing. He was given to me. He was waiting there, and I took him because
he was waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting outside the door in the pouring rain.
I offered him the league minimum to join my team, and he said, "Please, I need a job."
Well, what's the difference between that and signing a rookie, though?
Competition to get him. More people want the guy you drafted than want the guy you signed as an undrafted free agent.
Not when they proceed to do what they did.
Right, now,
yeah.
Hindsight 2020, right? At the time, there wasn't necessarily competition to get VanVleet's autographed. Right?
Okay, fair enough.
Wichita State's undersized point guard.
Yeah. And my last one also goes out of the world of basketball. Again, from that 1996 draft class.
Okay.
Went 2 picks after one Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
Good old Canadian boy. Won the most MVPs of anybody in that draft year. Steve Nash.
Yep.
Now, again, I understand the other first rounds, they're not like later round draft picks.
Yep.
With the exception, I guess, of Ben and Thing, but like we're talking basketball here. But for what they accomplished to go as late as they did, and consider the people that went ahead of them even.
Yep. Basketball is also interesting. It's very hard to accumulate, how to assess a draft steal in basketball, because I think you have to look at strength of the class, and I think you need to consider that there's only 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Right. So like
that 96 draft class though.
Yeah.
Oh.
But like when you 2 rounds, like that's in other sports, you wouldn't be able to fill a roster in 2 rounds. You wouldn't be able, wouldn't be able to fill a starting lineup in 2 rounds, right? So basketball's a little bit different, right? So I like your options. I'm going to try and choose people that you didn't choose. Okay. So obviously Brady was on my list. I also had Kobe on my list. Didn't consider Nash. I should have. Didn't consider Nash. And I didn't have Ben on my list. I was trying to go for low drafted players that became studs. I'll start off with... now, this is a little bit interesting. I won't bring up both. I won't say both of them are on the Rushmore, but one of them I think has to be. And we got Roger Staubach and Bart Starr. Roger Staubach was drafted in the 10th round. He was drafted 126th overall in the 10th round. That's when there was not very many teams. I don't know what the equivalent to that is now. What's 129 third round pick today's draft?
32 teams.
Fourth round.
Yep.
Third round?
No,
okay.
It'd be fourth because he'd
okay. So he would be
fourth round, fourth pick.
So he'd be a 4th rounder today.
Third pick.
Roger Staubach's probably between him and Aikman for the best Cowboys quarterback of all time. Mm-hmm. Multiple Super Bowl winner, face of the league. Bart Starr, 200th overall, so that's a late 4th rounder, early 5th rounder. Once again, like you said, he's on your Mount Rushmore of Super Bowl MVPs. I think I don't even need to explain why he's a steal. Yeah. Okay, so we had those guys. Now, that was at a different time. The league was smaller then. There was more positions to fill because there was high turnover for the roles. It's a little bit different. War times, too. Guys that would have played in the league were off fighting. Mm-hmm. Those types of things were into consideration. So I want to put them as like one spot, like the OGs, sure. Right? I loved the Kobe. I loved the Nash. So I'll give you another Kobe Nash. I'll give you Giannis and Kawhi. Giannis was 15th overall. Giannis is the defending and probably repeating MVP in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Kawhi was also 15th overall. He's a 2 times final MVP and right now considered one of the top 3 players in the league.
I do like the Kawhi. Problem with Giannis, I don't think it's been long enough yet.
NBA MVP. Competing against who he's competing against for those MVP honors. He's competing against LeBron, one of the greatest of all time, to get MVP. So he's outplaying LeBron James.
It's that long game though, right?
I get what you're saying. But still an absolute steal.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey, Mark Stone. Mark Stone was the 178th pick. He was a Calder Trophy runner-up. I think today he would be on Team Canada if they were in the Olympics.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make a stupid face. It wasn't meant that. Yes, I agree with you. I do agree with you.
Okay. I was like, what?
I had this stupid moment of just, there's so much stuff. There's so many people that we forgot.
Exactly. I'm trying.
Not in this necessarily category, but in a previous one.
So if I'm just to do Mount Rushmore, so I would agree with you with Brady. I would agree with you with Kobe. I would throw in the OG wing and Roger Staubach and Bart Starr. And then if I was to just bring someone from hockey, just to get hockey a representative, it would be Mark Stone for me. But we got guys like Manu Ginobili. He was drafted 37th. He was a four-time NBA champion, two-time All-Star. Mm-hmm. Drafted 37th. I would love that production for my 37th overall pick. Joe Montana was drafted in the third round, 82nd overall. He's one of the greatest players of all time. More recent, Donovan Mitchell was drafted 13th, should have won Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
Shannon Sharp was drafted 192nd. He's a Hall of Fame tight end. Right? The list goes on and on. So there's tons of these draft steals. But yeah, I agree with you with Brady. I agree with you with Kobe. I think they're two of the greatest steals of all time because they're also two of the greatest of all time. And then I put Bart Starr and Roger Staubach in their own little OG wing because it was a different time. And then for hockey, just because I feel like they need a rep, I have Mark Stone.
Okay. I like it. So I want to jump back to the bust really quick for a second. We talk sports busts. And there was one thing, I don't know how I forgot this actually, because I would actually take out Odin and I would put in Sam Bowie.
Sam Bowie.
You don't recognize the name.
I don't recognize the name.
Right. Sam Bowie was in the 1984 NBA draft.
Okay.
Sam Bowie went first round, second pick.
Okay.
First pick, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Okay.
Third pick, Michael Jordan.
Oh.
Sam Bowie.
One of the biggest busts of all time.
100%.
Yep.
Well, this was fun.
This was fun.
We should do this again sometime. I think what we really want is let's get some feedback, guys. Head over to the Instagram, head over to the Twitter, both at 2 Strikes Pod, and let us know your take on our Mount Rushmores. Let us know who your Mount Rushmore of these topics are, and maybe we'll do another episode down the road for this. And we want to know what you want to hear. What Mount Rushmores do you guys want up here?
We'll post a picture of Mount Rushmore on Instagram, and then you can flood it with comments.
Yeah. And thank you guys very much. I think we're going to end off here for the day. Until next time.
Good times.
Good times.